Hey, good morning, Gathering Place Church. Adam Owens here. Just wanted to send a word of encouragement to you. The thing that has been on my mind lately is really effective communication. Being able to effectively communicate in such a way that it actually builds up and doesn't tear down. I've been reading through the book of Judges, and I came across Judges chapter 6 with the radical story of Gideon. If you're familiar with that story, you understand exactly what I'm saying. But it really articulated something for me with regards to the power of our words and the weight that our words really carry. And so before I dive in, just real quick, the nation of Israel in the book of Judges is always found in this sin cycle where they were walking with God, they were worshiping the Lord, and then they would start to slip away and serve other gods, and then God's hand of protection would be removed from them, and then all of a sudden the enemy would come in and oppress them, and then God would hear the cry of the nation of Israel's heart. They would cry out, "God, help us, please," and he would raise up a deliverer or a judge, as mentioned in the book of Judges, and that judge would come in and deliver them from the oppressive hand of the enemy, and then they would start to walk with God again. But then unfortunately they would start to fall away again, and they found themselves in this sin cycle. And in Judges chapter 6, that's exactly where they find themselves again, in this sin cycle. And so you've got a man named Gideon who really has no other identity other than his victimhood and hiding in a cave and hiding from the enemy because he was scared he was going to get everything taken from him. And then this radical thing happens where the angel of the Lord shows up and he really puts language to Gideon's life message. And in verse 12 of chapter 6, it says, "Gideon," the angel of the Lord says, "you mighty man of valor." Wow, here's a guy hiding in a cave. Mighty man of valor, probably not the words I would choose. But then he takes this victim mentality that Gideon has and he crushes it with these words. He says, "Go in this might of yours, and you shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites." Wow. So God imparts purpose and hope to Gideon, and it transforms this fearful young man who was hiding from his enemies into a commander of an army that would set the nations free. The words that we speak really do have power. The words that you speak to your children, the words that you speak to your spouse, the words that you speak to your friends, the word that you speak to your coworkers really carries weight. And I think it's important that we understand and we don't underestimate the power of effective communication. And listen, before God has called us to be effective in our communication with others, I think it's important to note that he wants us to have effective communication with him. And let me just say this, that if there is ever a communication issue with us and God, it's certainly not on God's part. He has no problem communicating whatsoever. Listen, the level of our intimacy with God is determined by our level of communication with him. Let me say that again. The level of our intimacy with God is determined by our level of communication with him. Let me just give you 8 guidelines or 8 different things that'll really help us to be effective in our communication with our spouse, with our kids, with our friends, with our coworkers, with anybody. It'll help us to be effective in our communication. Comes right from the Bible, a lot of Proverbs, but number 1, listen before we speak. This is a challenge at times. We need to be teachable and listen to the counsel of others. In Proverbs 15:31, it says, "He who listens to a life-giving rebuke will be at home among the wise. He who ignores discipline despises himself, but whoever heeds correction gains understanding." Stop listening to instruction, my son, and you will stray from the words of knowledge. We need to listen before we speak. We need to be teachable, and we need to listen. And we need to listen to understand. One of the biggest problems that I think we have, maybe it's just me, but I often listen to reply. I'm gaining my ammo because I'm going to go after them as soon as they stop talking. I won't interrupt them, but I'm only listening so that I can reply. But listen to Proverbs 18:13. "He who answers before listening, that is his folly and his shame." Do you see a man who speaks in haste? There's more hope for a fool than for him. Proverbs 29:20. So number one, we need to listen before we speak. But number two, don't talk too much. This may be a really hard one for some people, especially when we get riled up or we get passionate about something. We talk way too much. I remember leading a community group, and there was a gal she was a wonderful gal. She had a lot of wisdom to impart, but she would talk and talk and talk, and nobody else had time to really jump in and say anything. And so I found myself almost like I was merging on a busy highway trying to find my way in. I found myself trying to merge my way into her conversation so that I could pull it back and allow other people to have time to speak. Let's not talk too much. When words are many, sin is not absent, but he who holds his tongue is wise. Proverbs 10:19. A man of knowledge uses words with restraint, and a man of understanding is even-tempered. Proverbs 17:27. So let's not talk too much. Let's listen before we speak. But number three, we should weigh our words. We have to be careful to think before we speak. If our words have the ability to build up or tear down, then we have to be careful and think before we speak. And I think it starts with taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. Proverbs 15:28 says, "The heart of the righteous weighs its answer, but the mouth of the wicked gushes evil." He who guards his lips guards his life, but he who speaks rashly will come to ruin. Proverbs 13:3. Number four, make your words timely and appropriate. I can't tell you how many times I've said the right thing at the wrong time. A man finds joy in giving an apt reply, and how good is a timely word. Proverbs 15:23. A word aptly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver. Proverbs 25:11. Number five, don't be easily offended by harsh words from others. Don't be easily offended by harsh words from others. Here's Ecclesiastes 7. It says, "Do not pay attention to every word people say, or you may hear your servant cursing you. For you know in your heart that many times you yourself have cursed others." Let's be careful not to be easily offended by other people's harsh words. Number six, speak the truth. It's important that we speak the truth, and it's important that we speak the truth in love. I can't tell you how many times I've been hurt, and I've heard other people have been hurt by other people talking bad about them, but it wasn't even actually true. It was taken out of context, bent to fit their narrative. We need to speak the truth. Psalm 34, "Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking lies. A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who pours out lies will not go free." Proverbs 12:22, "The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in men who are truthful." Let's not create our own narratives towards other people. Let's make sure that we're speaking the truth. Number seven, say what people need to hear, not just what they want to hear. Listen, that's hard sometimes. People need to hear something, but we don't want to say it because we don't want to offend them, or we're scared they're going to get mad at us or whatever. But listen, better is an open rebuke than hidden love. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. Proverbs 27:5-6. Number 8, and this is the last one, use words that edify. An anxious heart weighs a man down, but a kind word cheers him up. Let us therefore make every effort to do what leads to peace and to mutual edification, Romans 14:19 says. And then 1 Thessalonians 5:11 reads, "Therefore encourage one another and build each other up." Listen, church, we need to learn how to use our words to encourage, to build up, to edify our kids, our spouses, our co-workers, our friends. Let's be careful in what we say, and let's have effective communication. God bless you guys.